Computer. Chat.
I'm holding something.
Nice. And then the participants list, so I can see if somebody's trying to come in. Hello, friends. What's up? What's up? All right. So hopefully this records. Luna's always having some weird issues with her Honda, whatever. I'm going to try to take these few seconds to go over the things that I already was talking about before because it didn't get saved. So we're going to try to, just power through it. So the first thing that I was talking about was kind of like Widow line of sights and the difference between blocking her with Winston versus blocking her with Reinhardt. So this is going to be something that all of our higher level players know, but anybody who's a little bit lower level or is newer to the game might not know. So basically, if this was Widow and this was a Rein shield, you can draw a line to the top of the Rein shield, and then after that connect to the ground. This triangle is the pocket of space that Rein can protect. So Reinhardt can kind of like flicker his shield every once in a while to time his shielding with the Widow shots, because Widow has to charge to about 75 before she can actually shoot and kill a squishy. So let's say if the Reinhardt has to put some pressure out, like a swing or a fire strike, this is going to be his small window of opportunity to actually do it. But for his teammates, this little triangle behind his shield is going to be the space that he can actually protect. So you have to be mindful of this spacing here. The other thing that you can do is play Monkey, this is why Monkey kind of is better against Widow, is because instead of just blocking a specific area, you put the bubble on Widow, and then Widow can't see anything but what's inside. It can't shoot anything but what's inside that bubble unless she moves. Wait, are we reviewing VODs, reviewing the tryouts? No, this is wait.
No, this is the tryouts.
What the heck? Okay, well, that's fine, because I'll just bring up the other code in a second. Let me just get through this really quick. So what happened? You guys good?
No, yeah. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I just kind of moved on. So yeah, one of the things that I was looking at when we started this was first that genetic was kind of like mismatched in terms of aggression throughout, which is something that we saw kind of throughout the night. Was that genetic was either ready to go in or already going in before anybody else was. So that's something that we need to kind of flesh out, because against these teams that are 2.5, I think, some of you guys are going to have a really easy time of just doing whatever you want, but these bad habits are going to get, are going to get really badly punished in, when we're playing against higher ranked teams, and we really want to be able to kind of scrub that out. I guess it's this one, right? Should be this one, hopefully. But we really want to be able to scrub out those habits, because we don't want to be getting punished once we do play higher level teams. We don't want new learning curves once we get into actual games or start playing against better competition, right? We want to be solid throughout. We want to have fundamentals that we can depend on regardless of the team we're playing against. So we need to get that communication. And this was the first match that we had actually played together. So I do understand some of it. Like there's going to be a moment that you'll see where Alexis doesn't shield properly past choke. But I remember in communications in the comms that you guys were uncertain about what you were actually going to be doing. So like you eventually just full commit through hotel, but it takes a second to actually like get through hotel and get everybody on the same page. So there's going to be some things that are excusable, but like look at where Genetic is already. He's playing so much faster than the rest of the team. And he's so ready to just go pop off. Look at him go. Oh, look at him go.
Well, I remember we had AFK, I think. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, Chloe was taking a sec. I don't know what that was about in that moment, but we'll try to flesh that out as much as possible. Because I was even talking about that. I don't know if you guys who saw and who didn't, but when we were reviewing the Havana game, like you have to be playing the game from the second you get into the lobby, right? You're sitting in spawn, go try to peek at what the enemies have. It can give you a big insight into their strategy. Try to listen to people, like if you're defending, try to listen to people at the door, maybe if you can, to see what their composition is going to be. You can try to Hanzo Sonic Arrow to see through, but you could also, on the attacker side, prepare for them to be Sonic Arrowing and not stand next to the spawn doors until 5 seconds before the doors are going to open. Be at your door that you want to be exiting 5 seconds before the doors are opening. You know, little things like that. Like you need to be playing the game from the second you enter the lobby. But yeah, this transition is just sloppy. I looked from the Widow's POV, and she actually is able to get a shot off on Chloe, but she's not able to get a shot off on Tatter Complex because she's too slow. She's not good enough. I don't know, but a better Widow might be able to hit that. I'm assuming. I'm thinking, you know. But one of the things that I was noting here was just that we need to take better stock of what's an actual threat and what we have to actually be paying attention to. So here, Alexis is dropping his shield and swinging, but there's a Widow on the high grounds. In lower levels, you almost never pay attention to Widows. You actually enjoy when there's a Widow on the enemy team because they're usually just garbage and they don't do anything. But in the higher levels, Widow is the end all be all. She's the equivalent of Mei in the lower levels, where it's like you see a Mei and you're like, holy shit, I have to change the entire way I play. That's what Widow is in the higher ranks. So you have to start showing respect to every Widow that you're gonna see, because they could literally be the only Masters player on their team who only plays Widow. We won't know until we play them. So we have to be able to show at least a little respect and a little restraint, especially in these early maps. I think going into the first map, you should always play maybe a little bit carefully, a little bit more observant to figure out what the enemy is trying to do, what their strengths and their weaknesses are. So we're dropping shield hard here, and Greedy gets picked because of it. Thankfully, I don't think she gets anybody else this fight, but this fight just kind of falls apart. So the KXMI was a tank trial for their team who winds up actually leaving. So I don't think they even liked him really in the first place, because he didn't sound too happy with what he was doing throughout the game, the person I was talking to. And you can see our Reinhardt's just charging back and forth, just making this a messy, chaotic fight. That's not really what we want. We don't really want to be breaking formations. Wait, where am I? So we don't really want to be breaking formations to try to get lucky pins. We want to only be pinning to confirm kills. I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go over it right now, because of course there's nothing you can do about things that you've done in the past already. But one of the things I was talking about was, when our DPS are about to do it now, but we're about to do it in a little bit of a sloppy way, is trying to engage with this Widow by splitting a little bit, so we can still go through hotel and apply an angle this way, but we can have one of our DPS take this high ground, because we know that the Widow is trying to hold this top high ground up here. So we can be applying split pressure and be making the Sigma choose which angle to protect by coming at them from two sides. What winds up happening is, I don't think we really communicate what we want to do. And instead of applying pressure from two different sides, we apply pressure from one side and wind up putting our team a little bit at a disadvantage by drawing Tat away from the tanks and requiring him to heal 2 DPS or off on the side. It works out for the most part, but largely, again, just because we have people who are better than their people. You're going to see Genetic just walk into them pretty much and get 3. And as much as that's great, we can't be playing like we're playing against 2.5 teams all the time, because like our tanks need time to catch up, right? We need to give them at least games that they can learn from, right? Not games that they just get smacked in. So for some of you, you're going to be playing down for a little bit, but you still have to play like you're playing in a team, right? You still have to play the formations. You still have to go through the motions a little bit and try to learn what you can from those games, because once you build those habits, once you get it ingrained in your system, once your tanks get used to you just being like, I'm going to go in and get 3 and die, then those will become debilitating, kind of like little thorns in our team play that will crop up in big moments, you know? So Tat has to heal Greedy and Genetic here, so our tanks are kind of pushing on their own with just the Lucio. But it kind of works out because That hits those heals, moves on, and we're able to get the push. But you see, Genetic is alone on the point here, and this is the miscommunication because our tanks chase with Lucio to catch out Ana, and we have just kind of like 3 sitting back. So Greedy loses the Widow duel. Greedy, get better. I don't know. Lol. No, I'm just kidding. So one of the things that we were talking about, I'm going to go back a few seconds. One of the things I was talking about, and we're almost caught up. We're almost there. So for these first like 2 weeks, I'm going to be really focusing on some of the lower level players because I feel like there's a lot of fundamentals that you can just kind of work on over time, and then we'll kind of get them as caught up as we can over the next 2 weeks, and then start working on everybody else as well. But there's going to be small things that I'll cue you in as much as possible. So for Genetic, your aggression, your communication, we were talking about it yesterday. I don't know if you were here with Lana and Tat, with how you pushed up the stairs on Havana to try to recontest, and nobody else knew what you were doing because they didn't have enough understanding of recontest. What's up?
I mean, I call out like, hey, we're separated just a bit, just care, and I think Genetic like agrees, like, oh, that's fine, but yeah, I tried to keep him up and stuff.
Genetic agrees that's fine. Like it's fine that we're split, or
Oh yeah, he's like, it's okay, and I forget what happens or what he said afterwards. But he knows that he's pushed up, so
okay. So I would really prefer us not to be that pushed up. If you're kind of like just pushed up and like it's okay, I can understand on some aspects if you're like I'm just better because like I said, you're gonna literally walk into them. You're gonna W mouse 1 into them and get 3 and win. But I just really want to be able to play safe because against better players, like Genji's not gonna just. Oh, Genetic's raising his hand. But yeah, that Genji's not going to miss those shots next time when we're playing against better people.
I have a question.
Answer.
So I think it's pretty important if we record our comms during the game too, so we could like see what like we're talking about afterwards.
Okay. So how could we record comms? I know if we stream, we could record comms, but I don't know.
I'll be cussing a lot, so I mean, you have to put a sensor on me. Probably a muzzle.
No, you good. You good. But I don't know how we could record comms aside from streaming, and I don't think streaming is going to be the best option long term because you don't want to be streaming your scrims and stuff like that and giving other people the opportunity to even see them on the other teams. You don't want to give them that free scouting. But I'll look into it as soon as I can to try to figure out what we could do to record that. If anybody else has any ideas, let me know.
Can we do it like on the phone? Like we just record ourselves on the phone? Is that
Nah,
possible?
I don't think that'll work.
I mean, I think we could record it through like OBS or something, or like I don't know. There's definitely a way to record comms, and I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, no, I agree with you for sure. I just have to figure out how to do it. I'll look into OBS first, and then if OBS winds up not working out for some reason, I'll see if there's anything else. Let me put that on my list. I gotta get another index card now. Are you happy? You're making me pull out more index cards. All right, this index card will do. Sorry if you can hear my writing heavy on the desk. The mic is on the desk right now because I don't have a ton of room to work with.
All good.
Okay, but this is what I wanted to look at with Greedy just to be aware of before we go into it deeper in the future is we were noting, me and my friend who is also kind of watching, that you take a lot of angles like this where right now that the Widow is here because she was here last time and you're just assuming she's here again and you were able to spot her out. But like we don't have comms, so we can't tell exactly, but I would think a better Widow might have rotated or moved to a better position, or at least, made it harder for you to see her from 2 angles, which, never mind. But either way, the thing that we're looking at here is the fact that this one is relatively safe compared to some of them that you take, but you're peeking 2 angles at the same time. So you're peeking both window and hallway or high ground over here, alleyway, catwalk, whatever you want to call it. Which again, like I said, that the Widow is here because she was here last time, but a better Widow would probably be repositioning or trying new angles, or once this shot is hit, she's moving and trying new stuff. There could be all sorts of things, blah, 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 blah. My explanation was better the first time, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, just be aware of some of the angles you take are a little bit aggressive and leave a little bit too much open.
I have a question.
Answer.
Real quick, and this is on our tank.
Yeah.
Yo, Alexis, did the enemy pop his ult already?
What happened?
And during this part of the match, did the enemy pop their ult already after the first minute? Enemy Reinhardt?
My short-term memory is non-existent, so anything that's happened in the past week is a blur to me, so I do not remember.
Nah, because I see you're the only one still hanging on to your ult, and everybody else seems to have.
Well, this is only second fight.
It's only second fight?
Oh, no. This is third fight now, I think. Because he chased the Ana last fight.
Because he's already got his ult. So I was just thinking, like, the first one to get ult, it must have been a lot of contact.
We'll tell you right now. Yeah, because look, he's going to chase the Ana now. So this is second fight. So he got his ult last fight. Yeah, Greedy's dead now to the Widow duel. So yeah, he got his ult last fight, and this is just the second fight.
Okay.
So yeah, look, Genetic is just like, I'm a W mouse one, and pew. And we're able to just win because of it. But yeah, I just want to be a little bit careful of those things because I don't think you're going to be able to do that going forward once we actually get into games. Because scrims, I'm always going to get us equal level as a team, which means as long as you're on the higher end of the team's average, you're gonna be better than the enemies. But when we're playing in actual games, the team's skills are going to be absolutely random. I'm going to have no control over that. And I can't get us scrims that are higher ranked than we are because people won't scrim us unless we have VSR to prove it. Genetic, did you raise your hand again, or has your hand just been raised the entire time?
Oh, I don't know why I still rose. Like, I don't know. I just raised it one time, but yeah.
High five. Hoorah. I actually high-fived my screen there. I want you to know that.
Did you just commit a domestic abuse on your PC?
No, I promise.
Personne n'échappe à mes regards.
So, yeah, okay, that's fine. I had to think about it for a second because you were red and I got confused. I was like, well, we shouldn't be popping sights first when we're on defense. But then I was like, wait a second, we're not on defense.
Personne n'échappe à mes regards.
So yeah, this is just small things here, right? So take note, Alexis and Chloe, how far Genetic already is. So let's have the long conversation about how to take these points. All right, so one of the major things that I think we need to start to learn how to recognize is when we've won or lost a fight. At least for our lower level or lower ranked players or anybody who's a little bit more inexperienced, because sometimes those things can be a little bit blurry. So John? Okay. John's freaking out. John did some shit just now. How do we get to this? Okay, so at this point, can everybody agree that we've won the fight? Can anybody
on this?
Can anybody argue that we have won the fight at this point?
Yes.
Okay. What's your argument that we haven't won the fight yet?
Oh no, we won.
Yeah. Okay. English is hard. No, questions work in both ways sometimes. So at this point, I think we can all agree, right? This fight is won, right? At the point that the fight is won, we have to be really taking stock of who's still around and what we can do with the people who are left, because there is a maximum speed to the uptick on the point. Having 6 on point is great, but it's not necessary all of the time. Like I said before, cart only moves to a max speed of 3. I think it's the same for tick percentage on a point, but I'm not 100% sure with that. The only reason that you really want to be having a bunch of people on point is in, let's say we're about to get in a long tangent. We're about to get a long tangent, aren't we? Okay. This is going to be my drawing board in case I need it. So there is a mechanic in the game to try to help attackers take points into CP, but it is not a mechanic that usually benefits a lot of people, because you don't want to have all 6 people stacked on point unless you're playing a death ball, right? If you're playing, with snipers or something like that, if your widow's on point, then you have problems. So the mechanic is this, right? If you have more attackers than defenders on a point, then the defender's spawn time, the respawn timer increases. So I can't remember the rates because they're very just like particular. It's like every 3 seconds that you have more attackers than defenders on the point, the respawn timer goes up by an additional, let's say 2 seconds or something like that. And then at 10 seconds, it increases almost exponentially and blah, blah, blah. It's really particular. I don't remember it. But there is a mechanic in the game where if you have more people on point, the defenders will respawn slower. It's just a matter of having more attackers than defenders on the point, which is why when Ash came out with Bob, people were like, whoa, we could be using this to break 2 CP potentially, because now we can just always have more people on point than defenders. But of course, like I said with Widow, you don't want Ash sitting on point all the time. It's not maybe her optimal range. You want to give her a little bit of space to protect and defend herself. So that's a side tangent. Genetic confirm 3 is max speed for point as well. So this is basically what you want to be happening. In an ideal situation, right? You win a 6v6 fight with a team kill without losing a single member. And the reason I'm going to take it to an ideal situation is because everything is easier to examine at the extremes. When you kind of work in niche, like, contextual situations, it gets a little bit more difficult to think about what's optimal or what you do in the worst case or what you should be looking at as good or bad. So let's take the ideal situation. We take a 6v6, we win it, we don't lose a person, and we get a team kill, which means everybody on the enemy team dies at the same time. And they're all going to respawn together a bit later, which maybe might not be the optimal situation, but it's pretty damn ideal for what I'm going to talk about right now. So we have 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports. And let's look at our composition in particular, where we have Ryan, Zarya, Lucio, Ana, Hanzo, Widow, right? So if the max speed for a point is having 3 people on it, then you have 3 people who are unnecessarily sitting around trying to capture point. In that instance, you want to be looking to optimize what everybody's doing. Well, you always want to be looking to optimize what everybody's doing. Like I said, higher level Overwatch is really just nitpicking stuff and trying to make like min-max everything. So you want to be min-maxing by making those 3 people do something. So generally what you want to happen is you want your tanks to start pushing forward, to start taking space while the point is still confirmed. Because at the point that we've kind of like definitely won the team fight, there is a bunch of free space. Like, let's see, we didn't get a team wipe here, but let's take a little bit more time because when did we? Okay, so Genji's dead. We've absolutely killed everybody. So there is no enemy up until, God damn it, sorry. There is no enemy up until that first corner here. And after this first corner, there's an Ana, and then there's no enemy until their still current spawn, right? There's just no one in any of this space that's an actual threat to most of you, let's say. Because, I mean, Ana versus Ana is even. Ana versus Lucio, it can be even. I don't know. It depends on the Ana skill, I guess, and the Lucio skill. But Ana versus tanks is not even, right? Like, if a tank pushes Ana, she better be running because that's a scary matchup for the Ana. So there's no notable roadblocks in any of this space during the streets phase so far. So what could you be doing as tanks is you could be taking the free space that's already there. You can go to the first corner. We were talking about yesterday, I was explaining to Chloe, but just in case anybody else needs it as well, as kind of like a a tank or really anybody, you should be looking to use corners as checkpoints for your progression, right? You should be moving from corner to corner, and there's going to be some characters that don't really care about corners as much, or they can operate somewhere else. But the reason that you want to be looking at corners is because at any moment you can cut off line of sight by just moving to the left or right, as long as you're playing close to that corner. So it can be a really safe space to play from, and it could just be a really good checkpoint system to move from and to, right? So at the very least, you can take up to this first corner for free, which is a bunch of space that the enemies can contest if you don't take it, right? If the enemies manage to get a regroup and they manage to come back to this choke point, they gain a very early kind of like advantage defensive hold position, because this is a choke and there's not really many alternate routes. You could go over there, but it's not the best flanking route, and it's just really good to hold. I mean, chokes are really good to hold. If you need me to go in depth about why chokes are really good to hold, just let me know. But right now we have 3 on point, so let's get into particulars about what's happening right now, right? So we have 3 on point, so we're moving at max speed. In this instance, right, you still don't want to get held at that choke point. Like, you still want to do your best to avoid getting held at the choke point, because it can be so detrimental to your offense as a whole to get held so early in your streets phase. Because if they're able to hold you at this choke point, that means they can take a fight here at the choke. It means they could probably take a fight around here at this corner, and then they can take a fight all the way over here at the end of the streets phase, at the end of second point. So if you can take this free space, you limit the number of fights that the enemies have against you from 3 to 2, and taking a free fight is always nice. Taking a free fight, free is for me. I don't know about you guys, but free is for me for sure. So in this instance, we have 3 on point. It's moving at max speed. Do you think it's more optimal for the people that are here to have this point ticking up at max speed, or to be trying to claim that free space? Does anybody have any ideas or thoughts? John, sit down. I don't like teachers' pets.
Oh.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think the tank should be pushing up and taking that space, but that's after the point is capped.
After the point is capped?
I mean, maybe one tank should push up and get the space, but see, I'm dead right now, so, and Greedy just, I mean, yeah, so it's
I'll
like
give you a little bit more perspective.
Greedy's not there yet, so, and I'm dead.
Okay.
And Tatsu's also in spawn, so I really think 3 on point still, and then when we cap point, push up.
Okay. So you value getting the cap more than, risking the tank's life and trying to get any potential free space?
Only because we're still down a little bit.
Yeah, because we're very scattered. Has anybody, John, you can come in now. You want to say something?
I think I answered this before already, but I think it depends on like how fast we kill the person and what you think the respawn time is, or I think it depends on the fight, but I think it should be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think when we're almost about to cap, we should make some space because we don't know when they're gonna come. So
Okay.
I think I'd value the cap, and then when it's almost capped, I would make space.
So Genetic says after we cap, immediately after, take any space that we still can. John says right before we cap, try to take any space that we can. Emmanuel says, I would say the tank and the Lucio should check to the corner to see enemies positioning, but be in length's reach of the team. Okay. Does anybody else have any other ideas or questions about this so far? Give it a second, let it float around, let it percolate. You don't know if they're typing. I don't know if they're typing. I wish there was some indication of people typing. It would be nice. All right, so generally speaking, I don't think either of those ideas are bad. The reason that I asked you guys is because I don't think there's Alexis said what happened. Well, you're just gonna have to watch the recording because I'm not fucking repeating all that shit. I think this is something that is super particular and super situational, right? Like, sure, it's going to happen a bunch, but I don't think there is any one right answer, right? I think that if you have these three here, personally, I would say that after a tick and a half, the Reinhardt should start pushing forward slowly on his own and maybe at least get in front or into this choke area to be scouting and potentially be backing up, since the Lucio is right here. But it is going to take a second for any real reinforcements to get to the point, and they'll probably be full capped before that. So the moral of the story, and I mean it's kind of weird to get to these moments sometimes, is that there's going to be some situations in Overwatch that there's no right answer to, right? There's no perfect solution. These are those moments that are fairly uncoachable. Like, this isn't completely uncoachable. There's definitely things that I can coach about this. But this is one of those instances where you really have to evaluate your skill and you really have to know what your team wants to do, right? So our team so far wants to play the more conservative pace when they take point, right? They would rather not push too far forward until we've confirmed the point and not risk losing our tank just to potentially get that free space. So our team is stretched out, blah, 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 respawn timers. That wasn't the best explanation of things, so I'll probably go over this again. When I'll probably honestly write something about this, because I think it'll be a little bit easier for me to lay something out that's like I can look back at all the different components. But talking sometimes I walk myself in circles sometimes, so my bad. So this is the point at which kind of John and Genetic are saying, and really Emmanuel too, are saying like we should be claiming space at this point, right? Because the enemies have not been able to catch up to this choke point on the left side of the screen, and this is what you see Genetic doing now. Excuse me, and this is that disparity in skill, right? I'm sorry if you hear my friend snoring in the back. But this is that disparity in like understanding what should be going on, is that Genetic is playing faster than everybody. He already knew that he needed to be going. We needed to claim space, and nobody else is really on that page. Well, I mean, other people probably are on that page. Like, I mean, him and John had pretty much the same answer, but John knows that he's not the character that should be pushing forward. It should be the tanks, right? The Lucio should be kind of escorting people back and forth and clearing space. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but once you kind of get into this situation, it's going to be, a long-range character who can sit on cart with one person pushing the team, pushing one of the supports, or someone who's pushing helping the team push forward, being kind of like able to quickly get back to point in case of anything. You should never push so far away from cart that you couldn't get back to your support or whoever's sitting on cart. But you definitely don't want to have all 6 sitting on cart, or even, most of the team sitting on cart, because there's usually free space for you to take, and those are worth team fights sometimes, like it is in this instance. Sorry, guys. I'm going to grab a bottle of water really quick, so my throat is killing me, and we're going to try to go again on most of that another day, because I don't think I did an adequate job of explaining it. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that we did for, what map was it? Blizzard World, where I really want to focus on the first point to start, and then I want to get onto the rest of it. I think that the transition of King's Road, like once you cap the point, is actually a really important part of it, because like I said, if you're able to claim that space and get a clean team win, you can get like free wins worth of space, or free team fight wins worth of space, just by pushing ahead at the right time. But let's look at King's Row as kind of like an offensive, like how you could attack it. Jesus Christ, I'm having a hard time right now. Okay, so King's Row is generally categorized by 3 or 4 features on first point. So the first one is going to be this theater right here on our lower right-hand side of the screen. The next one is going to be this hotel on the left-hand side of the screen. Then you're going to have statue and you're going to have high ground back here. And it wraps all the way around, which I'll show you in a little bit. Now, you may be kind of looking at it and saying, well, chokes are important, and this map has a choke right here at the bottom, so why aren't we focusing on the choke? It's because largely everything around the choke makes it difficult to properly hold the choke. So chokes are usually really good for funneling enemies, hitting splash damage, and making it so that you only have to use so many tanking resources because there's only so many lines of sight that the enemies can go through. But on this map, enemies can kind of like go over the wall a little bit if you go to this movie theater area, or you can go to the right side entirely if you wanted to. If you're defending it, there's nowhere to really like retreat to. If you're holding at the choke, you can go into theater, but this distance right here can be a little bit dangerous, and it also puts you in the wrong place to really be defending, because once you get into this room, you're technically in the choke, right? The enemies have the ability to come at you from multiple angles, but you only have a little bit of space to be able to work with, very few angles to be able to work with. So you don't really want to be retreating into hotel unless you have a comp that is specializes in holding spaces like that. Like if you're running like a Junkrat May or something stupid, which still isn't always gonna really work out, but I'm just talking about the instances of being in closed space and being indoors and stuff like that. The next retreat that you can take is from the choke point back to point. But again, this is a long distance. It doesn't leave you in as bad a spot, but that's a lot of retreat space to be kind of like backing up without any potential reprieve along the way. Excuse me, sorry. So it can be a little bit dangerous. Alexis has his hand raised.
It's not a question about the VOD. It's a question about scrims today. Are you gonna or practice? Are you gonna do what you did on Friday? You're gonna be telling us what we're gonna be doing, or
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull as many people aside as I can before we actually get started, depending on when everybody starts showing up. But yeah, I'll be
Okay.
pulling you aside, kind of like being like, hey, let's work on this, or let's try this out. For these first few weeks, it is going to be a matter of me kind of being like, I want to see you do this, I want to see you do this, so that I can figure out what we can all do and get as many looks as possible as early as we can. But probably the scrim next Sunday, I will be telling you, go, be free, show me what you can do.
Oh, okay.
But I'll be looking to have a scrim. So we have the scrim today, and I'll be looking to have another scrim on Friday or something like that again. And those will both be the same thing. For anybody who is kind of like newer or inexperienced with Overwatch, I'll be probably continuing to do that as much as far as like 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out even. But I won't do it next Sunday because next Sunday we're going to have somebody try out, I'm pretty sure. So in the scrim, there's going to be somebody who's here who's going to try out. And I want everybody to really just be like, listen, I want to play my best character. I want to play who's in this situation, because for some of you, this is going to be a matter of I have to outplay this person in some capacity. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
You can kick me out right now if you want, if that's what you're trying to say.
I've been thinking about it, honestly. I've been contemplating it. I've been like, man, I really hate that John character. He always hits his sleeps and it really irritates me. But I'm gonna think on it a little bit more. You know, I'm not gonna really throw you out the window just yet. You might be useful. Okay, so holding choke, backing up to point, far back up, sometimes not very, very worth it, because like I said, there's this high ground over here where people can jump over. The other point of this high ground is people can see over your defenses if you're holding too close, as let's say a Reinhardt or something like that. Because traditionally when I talk about things, I'm going to be talking about them from the perspective of Reinhardt, because Reinhardt is very vanilla Overwatch. I could understand if some of you are saying, well, Winston is kind of like a little bit more OG in terms of viability, but Winston, for most people, has a weird style of tanking that they don't understand in a kind of like linear one-to-one fashion like you can with Reinhardt. So when we talk about everything, it will be from the perspective of like a Rein Orisa. If we get into instances where we can start talking about Monkey, then I will explain that differently. Same thing with Wrecking Ball and Diva. But that probably won't come until, let's say, week 4 or 5, possibly. Now I'm really nervous. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not really a cutthroat person. Like, I can be a little cutthroat, but Alexis, you have your hand up again? I have to do
No,
it.
I don't.
Sorry.
I think it's still up. Sorry.
Apparently, you can just click it again. But yeah, I'm not really a cutthroat person, but I have to be. I can't take more than a 12-person roster right now, and 12 is even pushing it a little bit because that's two full teams technically that we're going through at once. So whoever I wind up messaging, or whatever, if I wind up messaging one day and being like, unfortunately we're gonna go in a different direction with the team, blah 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 blah, whatever I wind up saying, which will sound probably cheesy and professional because I don't know any other way to go about it. Just feel free to keep in touch. I'll still work with you in my spare time if I have any. But it's all I can do to keep 12 people. Okay, no, we're not playing. So yeah, if you're holding up close to choke, that people can see over your shield, it doesn't really give you any defensive advantages. You saw Greedy was already holding this angle over here before. Well, I actually don't know if you saw it, but I saw it. Greedy was holding this angle over here before, and this will compromise your defenses if you hold too close to choke as well. People can drop and go around you if you hold too close to choke. There's just no real reason to be holding choke. It doesn't provide the same type of choke advantages that other chokey chokes do. So that's why we don't consider the choke really like an asset of attack or defense on this, because nobody's really going to be using it. It'll just be kind of something that you walk through most of the time, unless somebody happens to have an instance where they would like to talk about where they've seen really good teams hold at the choke, like specifically like at the choke. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Every time I ask these questions and there's moments of silence, I'm like, how long do I let this ring? But we going to let it rock for a second.
I've seen people hold the choke before, but that's
What
only
rank?
when they had a Lucio moving back and forth, making it hard for the other team to really pop off and get on picks.
The question is what rank, though? Because that's what really we have to look at sometimes, because there's certain skills that are applicable in certain ranks.
Well, I've seen it in the diamond range, but after that, most people don't do it. They usually go around, or they usually go straight forward.
Okay.
They try to minimize the amount of exposure they have, and they try to maximize the amount of time they're on point.
In Masters, when I played in Masters, they usually go up to second point to make all the space. Like,
Cool. Wait, you're saying
It's
like on
like-
street space?
yeah, when they get okay, that's only when they
We're
get,
talking
like-
about choke, John. What the fuck?
Oh, choke? Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were talking well, no, yeah, that's what they do. They kill people on choke, or like they try to clear the
No,
choke.
this choke near statue, not the choke.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
one. Okay, never mind.
Nah, you good. Get out of here, nerd. Nobody needs your master's advice.
I'm washed, bro. I'm freaking washed.
One tier false reply.
Oh my god, he's a plat support, guys. Laugh at him, point and laugh. Don't point and laugh, that'd be me. But yeah, so this choke can be used. I'm not saying it's like the worst thing in the world. It's like we heard Emmanuel say, he saw people holding choke in diamond games, so it has some viability. I'll have to look back at it to see if there's any viability we should take advantage of. But traditionally speaking, most teams opt to not hold directly on choke. Some teams will hold like choke a little bit spaced back. Well, they'll play here so that they have some better retreat options and some better rotational options. Because what'll happen when people are pushing through choke is you have 3 options the second you step in. Well, 4 technically, but the 4th doesn't really count, because why would you come through choke and then go wide to the side when you could have just dropped from up here? So we're going to say 3 options and hold to that. But you have 3 options once you come through choke. The first one is to go all the way to the left through hotel. This can be used to cut off enemy spawns in order to catch out any enemy supports and compromise any splits or anything like that that the enemy may be kind of like trying to hold with, right? We saw the Widow and the Sigma on the high ground, and what did it allow us to do? It allowed us to chase their Ana all the way back here with our Lucio, Ryan, and Zarya, and just get the free pick, because the Reinhardt can't compromise his position on the front lines in order to defend the Ana, because the Sigma's not helping him tanking at all. That's not the only reason he can't really help her. Ryan also isn't made to stop damage from other Reinhardts. Like, there's nothing you can really do to stop a Reinhardt in close range aside from bubble. And they didn't have that bubble. You either shut down the Reinhardt or you by killing him, or you bubble. And they didn't have bubble, and they didn't have anybody who could catch up to shut down the Reinhardt. So first option is go through hotel. The second option is cut straight to point. This is the most aggressive, most vulnerable kind of push, because it'll give you kind of the longest walk-up time without any cover. But it can be good if you have a composition that is trying to rush down the enemies, run at a certain pace, or, I don't know, do a specific thing. I'm trying not to get into particulars about certain compositions. I'm trying to show you routes that you can walk, but there are some explanations that are composition specific. So if it sounds a little ambiguous or incomplete, it's because I'm trying not to get into some specific details that would overwhelm some of the people who are a little bit newer to the game, right? So the other option is to rotate around right side. This is, you know, good if you want to kind of like take it slow and poke. It gives you some cover with the statue. It gives you the mini. And if you really want to, it allows you to rotate to this right side over here. Another option for attacking King's Row is to go through hotel, or not hotel, movie theater. The reason we call this theater is because it's a theater. Yeah, that's it. People like, the reason I say this is because people have asked me, why is this called theater? And I look them in the eye and I'm like, because it's a theater. What don't you understand? But you can go out through this balcony area, down to the right, and up along the high ground. This will also enable a slow poking type of composition. It also enables bunker compositions that want to come to this high ground and hold up here. So if you wanted to play attack bunker, this is an option that you could use. For anybody who's read the document and saw the section about attacking on bunker. Then you could drop down here if you wanted, and you have the option of going through to their back line through here, past here, or going up to the high grounds, up the stairs, and then you have this big rotation area where you have all of this high ground to kind of control and do your best with. So that's kind of just a vague overview of King's Row and the different ways that you could attack it. Generally speaking, I'd like us to rotate through hotel for the most part, unless we're running a composition. Like, there'll be certain compositions of people where I'll say, I want you guys to just do whatever you feel is best, and just go for it. You know, just go and do whatever you think is right. But to start, when we play King's Row attack, our first option, I would like it to be rotating through hotel. After that, go wild, do whatever you want. Again, like I said in the document, I don't think that there's any strategy that survives that first kind of like contact with the enemy. There's a quote in there from somebody, I can't remember off the top of my head. But I'm not going to try to force you to go through hotel every time, because it's not going to work every time. Like I said, if they're running something like a Junkrat Mang, you definitely can't go through hotel, because the Junkrat's just going to get so much value from spamming as you transition if you don't have a diva or the proper, you know, defensive tools. So yeah, it's just a matter of this is going to be our first option, and then every secondary option has been laid out for you now in some way or another. Just try to be aware of what everybody's talking about if you're not already familiar with these terms, right? So left of statue, right of statue, theater, hotel. I call this catwalk because this is what it's been labeled in many documents. So this high ground up here, you can call it catwalk, or you can find your own name for it if you'd like. So I'm going to stop this VOD here about King's Row attack, because like I said, I really want us to be able to focus on the knowledge that we have on first point before we go on to other things. So I'm going to pull up the next replay. So far, comments, questions, ideas, concerns, I've been all over the place. So if you don't understand anything so far, please say it and let me try to go again at it. This is a whole new map. What the fuck? All right, whatever.
Ready for battle.
I see we've arrived at Boop City.
Boop City. Oh, are you All right, well then. Okay. So I'm not even gonna let this play yet. I'm just gonna kind of talk about the map. These maps are very, very small. They're very adorable, honestly, I think. But I'm gonna talk about kind of some of the key features and some of the things to take note, and maybe how we should be paying attention or how we should be pushing into them. So there are going to be two different types of compositions that you're going, or two different ways that you can really play this map if you want to boil it down to like very generic compositions only. So we're going to have the left side of this map, which is that indoors area, and then the right side of the map, which is that outdoor area. Both of them have a mega health pack in some way or another, right? On either side of the map. They just have different ways of accessing them and different dangers in getting to them, I guess. So the first feature we're going to talk about is this left side over here. This left side is very good for long range characters who want to be having oversight over as much of the map as possible. Sorry, I keep overshooting. So you'll notice that they can kind of rotate back and forth and down and around to see different areas. They can come outside and see across the mega. They can come back up and have sight lines across to the right side of the map. They can go forward and have a similar sight line, just a little bit more forward. They can push up the stairs and see into those rooms. They can see the entirety of point. They could see the staircase that the enemies are going to be walking down to get to point. It just is a very good sight line based area, so it's good for Ana's, Widows, Ashes, sometimes Hanzos, Soldiers, McCrees occasionally. I'm trying to think of other long-range characters, but those are always the first ones that come to my mind. So you'll see when we play this that John is going to instantly come here, and this is going to be where he lives. As a support, Zen. As a support, it's going to be especially good for you because you're going to have multiple options for health packs. You're going to have the mini here, and you're going to have the mega there. The mega's a little bit further, so if somebody dives you and they're really good, you're probably not going to make it instantly, but if somebody dives you and you're able to fend them off, you should be fending them off while backing up if they're really putting a lot of pressure on you, and backing up to the mega to try to stay alive as long as possible, right? But we all know John. He'll just hit the sleep, right, John? Right? Like he'll hit every sleep.
I missed it on the Sombra here, but I had my DPS to back me up. I called it out, and I think I got that, actually.
So what you're saying is you're a plat support.
Okay, dude.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it light, you know. But yeah, this is a good sightline for a lot of like long range characters. Generally, you're gonna want to be playing from this side if you have multiple long range characters or people that like to jump from high ground. Let's say like this is a good staging area for dives, just because it's slightly higher. And it provides some defensive positioning with the pillars and stuff like that. It's not the only staging area. Don't treat this as the end all be all if you're playing like Winston Diva or something like this. This is just a decent staging area if you're playing dive, especially since you would want your supports to already have been here. So it's not a bad idea to be where your supports were and then dive from that location. If you can manage to do that, it's usually fairly convenient because it's good for cooldowns and it's good for protecting your supports until the dive actually goes, in which case the enemy should be too discombobulated to actually put pressure on your supports, blah, blah, blah. So this is also good for any teams that like poking. You don't want to always be on point because if you'll notice, if you're looking at the map from overhead, the point is in a pit, right? It's on a slight low ground. So everybody, if you can control that area around the point and everybody can be looking down at the point, it gives whoever's on point a little bit of like have you ever seen like a Colosseum and then it's just like everybody's looking down at you? And imagine if all those people just had AK-47s and they were raining hell from above. That's kind of how I think about it when it comes to some of these maps.
You said AK-47s?
but yeah, there's a slight high ground surrounding, so if you can take control, it's much harder for people to push up into you. Like there's this pit here that'll prevent you. Stairs are going to slow you down. There's high ground, which is, I mean, this isn't real high ground, so it's not actually better than the low ground, but it's high ground, I guess. I don't know. So that's going to be for kind of like more pokey comps is going to be this left side over here where it's more towards the coast side. By the way, just as a general call out, anything that is kind of like this ledge area that leads to the internal abyss below, I call coast. You can call it something else if you'd like. Just got to be cohesive with the team. I'd call it coast. I will continue to call it coast because what I've been calling it for the past 3 years, right? So this, as you see, isn't an actual coast. It's not like a beach or anything like that, but it's just the cliff that leads into the endless abyss that leads to your death. So if you want to go right side, generally you're going to want to play like you're going to want to be playing like a more brawly composition. The reason is because this is a very indoors type of rotation that blocks line of sight with the enemy and will leave you pretty much right on top of them if they try to come to point, right? So if you're holding the left side, you can kind of use these pillars as cover, be using your defensive abilities to protect your team for as long as possible, and then offering reprieve again by using these pillars as cover. If you're playing on this right side, you generally want to be playing indoors and then acting as if you were some sort of like underground dark water creature or something like that, where you only come out to eat the enemies and then you go back. The counters to this, again, are going to be things like Junkrat that can spam you out in small areas, or just good team play on part of the enemies is always going to, mess you up. But if you want to run like a May Reaper or something like that, you can very easily come out, wall off the enemies, walk into them, kill them, and then retreat back into your hidey hole where you can protect yourself from any poke damage or stuff like that. The dangers of this is going to be the enemies putting pressure on point. Sorry, coach, the replays weren't in order when I gave them to you. Oh, yeah, just be like that. I don't know why I just read that message. But the dangers of this are going to be kind of like getting poked out from across. That's always going to be a danger against a bunker composition. But as long as you're in control of point, it doesn't matter if you're getting poked down. The problem is if you get too poked down and then wind up dying, that's what you want to avoid, right? So as a bunker or a brawl, type composition, you want to really be wait, what? Was I calling it bunker the entire time? This morning is really off for me. I'm sorry, guys. It's 2 p.m. I just called it morning. I should go to show my mental state right now. But if you're playing a brawl composition indoors, right, you want to avoid getting poked as much as possible by using the indoor cover. But as long as you're in control of point, it doesn't matter if the enemies are sitting here looking at you dealing damage. You have point. The problem will come when they start putting someone on point, and then you have to contest the point in order to keep control, right? In that instance, then you're going to have to, very quickly disseminate who your target is and how you're going to focus them down, whether it's by May-walling them off or May-walling the main source of the enemy damage so that it can't get through. Whether it's focusing them down by having everybody collapse on them, or just putting them to sleep, or just having somebody, ice block on point for a little bit just to buy a little bit more time so that you can get your cooldowns back for somebody else or something like that, right? There's going to be very small minutia that goes into stuff like that. But generally, left is going to be compositions that prefer to poke or are more long range, and to the right is going to be compositions that prefer to brawl or be more close ranged. So let's get into the map and see what we actually do. The nice thing about these maps is I don't have to teach you attack and defense. I just teach you how to play them. Like, there is going to be attacking and defending depending on whether or not you have the point or not, but they're not, like, this is the whole map. It's not like King's Row where I only taught you like a third of the map. Like, this is it. This is the whole thing. So generally speaking, if you're going to come out with a Ryan Zarya, you don't want to come out of this left side, because you'll see here this long transition right here is going to leave you exposed to plenty of poke fire. So it's fine if you want to split at these doors and just have long range characters go to the left and short range characters go to the right. You just want to understand that you are creating a weakness when you split, and how you're going to protect that weakness when it starts showing its head. So like before, John had said, he got pressured by the Sombra, he misses the sleep, but it's okay because his DPS were there with him and he was able to call it out, and they were able to cover up for each other, right? And then if you go to the right, you have to understand when you break line of sight from your supports, or like in this case, your Ana and stuff like that, or when you when you're going to be in prime position to be aggressive and to swing onto people and stuff like that, So this transition right here is already a little bit off. because there's no reason for our tanks to have to take that long transition. The next thing is going to be our tanks want to be notching themselves into this room right here. They want to be using these as their corners and their checkpoints to move from and to, so that they can back into them if they need reprieve. This will require them to have knowledge and awareness of what's behind them, right? So be listening for Reapers dropping behind you or something like that as an example, because they will be able to put pressure on you all of a sudden, and it will be very scary. But as long as you're paying attention and able to be aware of it earlier, there will be things that your team can do to help you if you call it out early enough, right? Ana can anti the Reaper so that he has to wraith out or something like that, or the Hanzo can put pressure in or focus his attention in that area, or Widow can, or Lucio can boop him back to keep him away or speed you away from them or whatever, right? But we're giving space here for 1, and for 2, just, that's a note to be aware of in the future. Jesus Christ, this ceiling is low. Okay, so right now we're just kind of poking. We have all our pokers on the left side, which is a weird way to talk about it. But this is the infamous missed sleep. This is the moment. Oh my God, despicable. I'm gonna put overlays on so I can see a little bit better. I missed. How did I miss? This is why I don't play the game, because I just missed overlay. Something that will be very good for all of you. Well, first of all, our tanks have to be a little bit more aware of support sidelines and what's going on. So I'm not going to say that this is necessarily bad, because our tanks aren't dead yet. But there's no way for anybody to support them, and they're currently in a 3v5, which I would say is what you would call not good. So be careful of where you're pushing, because although you're playing Ranzaria, you're not playing a brawl composition, right? You're not able to just rush into the enemies, even with the Lucio, because now you can't deal as much damage, tank as much damage, heal as much damage as the enemies can. Okay, but then what was I talking about over here? Shit. Does anybody remember what I was about to say?
That we were separated?
No, it was before that. I was gonna say something and then I noted that we were separated. And I was like,
A 3v5?
No. That wasn't part of the separation. If it's important, it'll come up again. Head empty.
You're not yourself when you're hungry?
Bro, I really should eat, huh?
Well, before that, you were talking about moving into the room to the sides.
Moving into the room. The room next to point?
Yeah.
Okay, but I think I was just using that. Oh, thank you. Okay, that actually segued. That segued in my head perfectly. Okay, so what I was gonna talk about was audio, because I noticed that the Sombra decloaked and Tat didn't respond to it instantly. So it is going to be advantageous for you if you don't already have some type of gaming headset to get one. When we get into the esports lounge, they're not going to be giving us headsets right away. And maybe not for a while. I don't know if they just because they don't have it in the budget yet, or because they just don't feel like getting there. They don't realize how important they are to gaming. But you're going to want to figure out how to get yourself some sort of gaming headset. If you have a big problem with it, let me know. But the reason that I'm saying that is because there are instances where the only way that you can stop the enemies from beating you is by listening. So I was going over some of this stuff with Frosty the other day. We were watching some of her gameplay from your guys' quick play. And one of the things that I was noting was that you have to be able to disseminate when there's flankers behind you, or when certain threatening characters are trying to do things like Reaper teleporting is a very loud, obnoxious sound once you get used to it. Sombra decloaking or throwing down a translocator can be very, very important to be able to hear, because as soon as that Sombra decloaks, she's vulnerable and in an animation for a little bit. And that's the easiest point to kind of like shut her down and deny her any ult charge. Because what the Sombra is always going to be looking to do is either attack flankers or farm ult charge. And you want to deny that as much as possible. So if you do not have a gaming headset, try your best to get one. if you have a gaming headset, make sure that your audio balances in such a way that you can hear everybody and the game adequately, right? You want to be able to listen to all of the different heroes' sounds, because every hero in this game has its own audio profile. They all have their own footsteps, their own audio cues, and various different things like that. So if you can, do your best to step that up.
I
Because
think
it's super useful. Yeah, what's up?
I think that most of us were calling that there was a Sombra behind in most of the maps that they played Sombra.
I just want to make sure that the audio's on point. I don't, like I said, we don't have comms. We'll get the comms. Genetic had a great suggestion with that. We'll try to get the comms saved. But in this instance, once that decloak comes off, I really want to see like a faster reaction to it in the first place. But I think part of that is also tied to audio for a lot of people. So I'm not saying that that's the issue here specifically for you, but I'm saying that that's a common issue that a lot of people have. So I want to point it out now. All good?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I honestly thought that he was gonna say something else. I don't know why. All right. So our tank's gonna feed a little bit, but it's okay because genetic hits those. So because of our aggressive positioning, it's kind of forcing Greedy to come up with us to get any actual value. And I think that on this point, it's very good to hold in this room once you full cap the point and push the enemies back. Like you can hold at this choke point, make it very difficult for the enemies to push forward. But we do have to be mindful of how far back everybody is and how close they are to being able to hold that position on this map. Excuse me. Just because when we're playing something like a Widow, like what's her sight line if we're holding in there? Like what can she really be doing? Greedy's found a pretty good like little narrow space here, but now she's made it so that the Ashe is almost on equal terms with her because she's forgone so much space just to be able to hold as far forward as the tanks are and be able to get any value in the fight. So like Genetic's in a fairly comfortable range because Hanzo is better up close or in medium ranges, not in long ranges, but there are spaces that Genetic could be playing in, that our tanks could be playing in, that could also help Greedy, right? Like if Genetic can play on this pillar a little bit more and like drop around it and stuff like that while our tanks hold near, and then they back up and then give that space and open it up for Greedy to be able to hit shots, I think it just makes our composition a little bit more balanced in terms of the way we're playing it, right? Like it just gives everybody a chance to do their part instead of depending on some of our players to overperform. Greedy still gets value in that fight though, which is good. I actually want to see from his perspective what happens because he dies as soon as I say something. Jesus. Because I want to see how he's playing this, and this I think for me might be a little bit of a learning thing because there's some angles, there's some hero specific things that I'm not fully brushed up on. So like Alexis said BRB, gotta go do something. I don't know every Lucio rollout, you know, but that's just because I'm not, like I said, I don't know everything in the game. I think it'd be unrealistic for me to know every Lucio rollout and every Widow positioning, and you know, I'm sure some coaches do it. I'm sure some people have the big brain. I'm sorry you're stuck with me, honestly.
No one can hide from my sight.
Ooh. Woo. Okay, so he just hits good shots in ranges that some Widows wouldn't be able to hit shots in. That's just unfortunate, bro. John, why are you making this rotation?
Because if they saw me on the left side, they would probably push me. So I think it was better. I think I said I was gonna rotate. I'm not
Okay.
too sure.
So what happened before that? Because I would like to prevent rotations like this by just being so. From the beginning, it already looks like you're on split sides from the team. So let's just try to make sure. And I think this is one of those instances that we need to know a little bit better what our positionings are for one another. So why are you on the left, John?
I was probably waiting to use like a sleep or a nade to anti them or something to make like a play.
Well, I'm not talking about contextually specific. I'm talking about like just this map. Why are you on the left compared to the right? Is there any particular reason?
I'm more comfortable on the left, I think.
Okay. So I don't know. This is something that I'm really thinking about for the first time. That the left or right is better to retreat from. So, or like just retreat to. I would say that it's probably dependent on your composition and how you're holding point. But let's say for now that when we're holding, hold to the left and retreat to the left. Retreat to this mini or spread out in this area, go back to bridge and really poke them down or whatever if that's our composition. But just play to the left to start.
I have a question about that.
Answers?
If we were to hold to the left, wouldn't we have to be aware of shield and positioning even more because of the ledge right next to it? Wouldn't it be safer to retreat from right?
Okay, so if the enemies are pushing into us, and this is where we really get into the discussion part of this. I wish I could like just not have the ceiling there so we could see both inside and outside, but let's just use this angle, right? So if the enemies are pushing into us, right, and we say, let's go to the left, then the enemies are always going to be trailing us. So if we're here, I would say that if we go to the left, this has to be our hold location. Like we have to stop them here. Because for the large part, you're right. Like this pit is too dangerous. So we have to be kind of like dragging back here to the staircase if we're holding to the left. Because if we make this transition here, I think there's too much of a lack of cover for too long for us to really survive that retreat. So if we play left, we have to play staircase. I don't think there's any chance of us going to point, which means if we don't hold them here, we just give them point because they could just go to the right if they wanted to.
Cause like didn't you say like the right side's more for brawl and stuff? So like we would probably go back to point and try to fight it. But since we have like a Hanzo and like a Widow is able to like I guess Widow by himself can just run away to the left side. But then I don't know.
Because we wouldn't want to be on top of the Widow and the Hanzo necessarily on the left side because that's where they're peeking from. So in my eyes, it'd be safer if we rotated right because we have the most cover. We have two entryways to go onto point, which are pretty safe for the most part, unless you get to the staircase, which then again is way safer than having that entire 90-degree angle right there on the pit and holding that position, especially if Lucio decides to flank.
So
which wouldn't really be too much of a bad thing, but depending on if he goes above or on the side, then it could be a real issue. Because it is possible to boop somebody or an entire team off from above. And I swear to God, those plays, every time I rewatch them, I want to cry for the enemy team. Because it's not just one person, it's the entire team. And I'm just like, oh, what if that happens to me?
I have a suggestion.
Yep, go for it.
So we see that like I'm really pushed up here, and Greedy's also trying to go for picks. So we won the team fight. I feel like our team and our tank should push up a little bit, shield us, and Greedy won't die if we have a shield here. We can get opening picks at the spawn.
Okay.
And yeah.
So these are two separate conversations, but let's engage with the one that you're bringing up right now, Genetic. So let's say that this is one. This is a very sloppy one, right? And then this is two. This is where you are. How far do you think the tanks should push up? Let's make a little 3 here for where the tanks currently are.
Well, I mean, we have a Lucio, so where I am, honestly.
You think where you are?
Yeah, just a shield right there, and Greedy won't die then, and I got the pick, so.
Yeah, I think until the enemy team maybe gets to like the monks or the pointy statue, I'm gonna call this pinnacle from now on because it's the pinnacle. But until they get to pinnacle, I think that the shields probably should be where you are, and then kind of give that little bit of space because I think if we take the engagement here, it's not really like a choke. I feel like we're still very exposed to various different angles and stuff like that. And then we'll need to back up to this point. So, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that the tanks are too far, and that is part of the reason. That is a large because the Greedy doesn't die to skill. Greedy dies to a log. Greedy literally dies to the Hanzo being like, "What's over there?" So we need to be a little bit snappier on that shielding there and getting those defensive abilities where our DPS can play from and try to keep the pressure on the enemy for as long as possible. But going back to the other thing with where do we retreat to if we are pushed back. So the main thing that we're trying to avoid is really just this rotation that's going to come next. And the reason is because I don't want to have these awkward rotations where for honestly no reason, like you're split for no reason. You could have just been on the right side from the beginning. You have to break line of sight with your team while the engagement is starting to try to go all the way around. And now it's a 4v6 while you're rotating because we lost Greedy already, you know? And our tanks are giving up too much space. Like we have full resources. We should be fighting right now, not running. There's really no reason to run unless you you guys are saying like, listen, Greedy got picked. We lost this fight. Let's get back. Let's just fight on point and then have Greedy come back and poke from afar. As we're fighting on point, which again isn't a terrible thing, but I don't think that's what's happening right here. So I think our tanks are just being too passive, yeah, because then they go in almost immediately after. Once that bubble's done, you're going in and you're just wasting resources. Okay, so to start, let's Tat, do you think it's a problem if you are on the right side here instead of the left?
No, I don't think so. Like
Okay.
I was saying, cause like if I rotated right side, honestly, I was just fishing for like a nade or something, like a big nade.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were
'cause,
playing splits for the nade?
Yeah, because I forgot what happened. Honestly, I forgot what.
That's fine. As long as you
But I think that was
understand that you were
split.
playing split for the nade. Do you know if you communicated that or not?
I don't think I did actually.
Okay. So just for anybody who is sorry, for anybody who's a little bit less experienced or doesn't understand, Tat was playing on the left side so that when the enemies pushed in, their tanks faced our tanks and our DPS, and he would have a window into the side of the tanks to be able to throw a nade and just get free value. So what was it? There we go. So when that happens, when he's going for nades like that, what happens for a short period of time is we just have less healing and can be less aggressive until the nade is hit or he confirms that the rotation is complete. Because if he misses the nade or they block the nade or whatever for however way they wind up doing it, then he has to make the rotation, and it's like a risk-reward situation that has fallen through, He went for the risky play, it didn't work, he's making the rotation now. You have to hold steady while he tries to get there, right? So I don't think that's a problem. Just try to communicate that if you do that in the future. Everybody else, try to keep that in mind. If anybody doesn't get to watch this in time, just remember that you guys are going to have to try to communicate this stuff, or I'm going to have to try to communicate this stuff mid-scrim or, again, later, just because, stuff like that is going to happen if we're playing Ana. Like, we're going to be trying to go for these those splits really quick where we're trying to get that anti-nade in, I'm sure.
I get why Alexis retreated.
Yeah?
That's why he didn't play up too aggressive.
Why?
He's being pushed by Azaria, and he doesn't want to get stunned by the Reinhardt pushing on him. So he's playing backwards.
He has a Rein Zarya.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't want to get pushed too hard. He doesn't know if the Zarya is really gonna be able to back him when a full team, and especially since they're split.
Especially since our Ryan and ours are split.
No, the team's playing spaced out.
Okay, but even if he's afraid of the team being split, he can't forsake the DPS like this. I don't think, because as the main tank, as tanks in general, one of the unfortunate truths is that you're a martyr for the team some of the times. And I think that this is one of those instances that even if Alexis is afraid of being put in a disadvantaged situation where he's going to die, our DPS getting picked is kind of more important because we're currently keeping long-ranged pressure on the enemy and have an advantage already. So we should be pressing that with our DPS as much as we can and giving them as many opportunities to keep that pressure on the enemy. So even if he's afraid of the enemy's Rein Zarya, and even if he's not sure about the split of his team, he has to at least play the core kind of like, I'm protecting the team positioning, which would be at least this choke. But he's all the way back, not even in the room, when the rest of his team is already pushed forward. Like this, if you're saying he doesn't know where his team is, then that's a problem too, because that's an awareness thing, right? Because you need to be able to see.
No,
your
I don't.
teammates'
I don't think
silhouettes.
No, I think he knows where his team is. I think that he's worried about the supports right now. I think he's worried about the supports and the people behind him instead of the people on the left.
I don't know. I don't know if that's valid
I'd
enough.
have to ask him. But from what I'm saying,
Yeah.
he's playing backwards. He's still protecting, but he's protecting half the team while the other two are on the left.
Well, I don't think
He's
he's protecting.
prioritizing
right now, by the
numbers
way.
over value, to me.
I don't think. Oh, wait. Well, first, John, what were you saying?
No, I was saying I think Alexis is here. That's the
Yeah,
top.
he is. He can defend
Well,
himself. If he feels like it.
I was talking.
Yeah,
to my,
Alexis. To me, it seems like you were trying to prioritize the biggest number of teammates to protect
So
instead of the fewest.
just to catch you up, because Alexis just got back. I just let him back into the room because he stepped away for a moment.
yeah, I had to go to the bank. Sorry.
No problem. Genetic was talking about the fact that him and Greedy are kind of like looking to keep pressure on the enemies, and it would have been good to have a shield up where Genetic is to be able to stop any incoming damage. Because what's going to happen right here, you'll see this little dot that my cursor's hovering over. This is a log that's going to kill Greedy for free because the enemy Hondo is just trying to like get sights in the room, and Greedy just gets picked because there's no shield in the way to even block spam damage like that, So
yeah, we in that match, one of them said it, and that's why we moved up. But then he died. Yeah.
it was just too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, but what Emmanuel was saying was basically that you might have been trying to protect, the clump of teammates rather than the teammates that are split. But I think that where the clump of teammates are, it just happens to be on the Reinhardt already. Like I think Zarya is just following Reinhardt, and so is Lucio. Like they're just playing as a unit. So the Reinhardt needs to really be leading where the team is going anyway.
All right.
So just be mindful of where your DPS are playing sometimes, because sometimes they're taking the aggressive positioning that they need you to be in, or they need you to be in front of them.
Yeah, I think it was just a miscommunication because I think either I or Greedy need to call out that we got a team code. Let's push up a little bit, and we have a Lucio. We really shouldn't be scared to poke a little bit. Yeah.
What was it? I think this was again like I was talking about with Kings Row. Kings Row was the first map he played. I think this was the second. All right, so we were also talking, Alexis, about Tat's hold on this left side. He was trying to get a nade in onto the back once they started pushing in. For whatever reason, it didn't work out, and he wound up trying to do the rotation. So he was saying that he might have not communicated that well, but just for futures notice, if the Ana player on the team says that they're going for a flank nade or a nade off on the side or something like that, just know that they're going to go for a big bang or bust. If they hit the nade, you have to push super hard. If they don't hit the nade, then the Ana player has to make a rotation around, which will leave you with low healing for some time. So you'll have to play a little bit more conservatively while, like you see, he goes for the sleep, and then he doesn't hit it, so he makes his rotation. During this rotation, you have to be aware that you have low heals. Then once he gets there, he gets you right back up. All right, so let's look at the rest of the map. It's already almost 3 o'clock. That's crazy.
Огонь по готовности.
Yo, guys, thanks for not having a light with me today. My friends are upstairs making curry, and I hope it comes out good because I'm gonna be hungry as fuck after this. Alright, nice. So this time we get a little bit of the shielding. Just so this is what I wanted to talk about before a little bit, Alexis. We still have full resources, the space that you're giving, and I saw this again on Third Point Havana, where it's just like you would give this free space sometimes for no reason, and like you still have full resources as a team pretty much. Like you're full on health. They have less health. They've been taking more pressure and more damage, but I don't know if you're reacting to this ball call because I do remember you guys calling like they might go left or they're going through the side or whatever. But even still, as a Reinhardt, you should be at least sticking to the corners and the walls and going from corner to corner as you retreat, not just backing into open space and just giving this free distance to the enemy. Because then you close it again and it's just like that was like wasted time where you could have just been around the corner. It could have been a lot easier for you to be there and such. Small stuff. It really is small stuff sometimes.
Score.
For this scrim tonight, I'll have to say it again, so actually it doesn't really matter too much, but we're not going to be resetting matches because for some reason they think it's more fun just to play through. So try not to get too caught up on the winning or losing part of it. I think you guys were doing a good job towards the end of getting the idea that the scrims are really just a practice. There literally is no winning or losing, but there will be a victory screen at some point tonight. It just doesn't mean anything. Like I can't give you, I'll clap for you if you want. I'll say GG. But when we play other tournaments, winning and losing is going to mean a lot more.
2, 1.
Wait, did you say victory screech or victory screen?
Victory screen.
Okay, I was like, I thought there was gonna be a victory screech. I'm like the SpongeBob memes are coming back. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Pop up in the chat like. Woo! So this was interesting because I think this was one of the few parts that they actually had a strategy for. Like we saw in Kings Row, they had the Sigma Widow that they were playing split on the high ground, but for the most part, they didn't really have a proper strategy for the maps. They were just kind of playing them. So I think on any map pick that they chose, they did better than they did on any map pick that we chose, which might have just been, they play specific maps and they practice specific things, which is going to be largely the thing that we do going forward once we get through all the basic kind of like get to know you shit. We'll just be like, okay, what maps have we been doing the best on? Let's perfect those. Let's make those easy dubs kind of maps. So TP onto point. May Sim, very, very annoying strategy, very difficult to push into if it's played properly, because if any of you push alone, you get walled, and then you just have Sim bearing down on you with all of her turrets and her high beam charge. So I think what would be better to play against this when we're playing, especially like Ashe Hanzo type compositions, where we're playing these poke type compositions, is to have our DPS kind of like split and poke from opposite sides. And be able to put pressure on both sides, because one of the priorities that we're going to have here is 1, breaking Mei wall if it comes up, and 2, destroying turrets as much as possible so that we can deny Sim as much value as possible. So when Mei wall goes up, you have to be calling it as a team. You have to instantly be saying, Ryan, you're walled, you're walled, you're walled, you're walled, you're walled, you're walled. When that wall goes up, it is important that everybody focus the same pillar. So it should always be the left pillar for now. I'm going to say that with as much certainty as I can so that you do it with confidence. There will be some situations, though, where the leftmost pillar is not the right pillar. But as Reinhardt, or whoever gets walled, let's say, usually it's the Reinhardt because the Reinhardt leads. But whoever leads and gets walled, right, it is your job to back into the left pillar so that when your team breaks it, you can get back to them as soon as possible. Cool. I think that wall is one of those things that breaks uncoordinated or poorly coached teams. I'm not trying to be one of those coaches that's that bad. I at least want you to know how to deal with Mei wall. So,
Hey, listen, man, you haven't kept us in a basement yet, so you're not that bad.
Jeez, who's keeping you guys in basements? Nah, but when the May wall comes up, break it as soon as possible. Left pillar first. Make sure you call it so that the person on the other side knows that they're split. Because as the person who goes first, especially the Reinhardt, if your shields, like if you're facing forward or swinging or whatever, it can be very easy to just kind of blind walk into the enemies and feed. But when they have a May, as Reinhardt, you have to be aware. One of the things you can do as being that first person forward, Ryan, is you can kind of like bait like you're going to walk in there and just stop and back up so that hopefully the May wall gets put up under you. In that instance, we should push immediately after to try to capitalize on the fact that they don't have May wall. But May wall basically creates a free kill for a team if they play it properly. But poking this is pretty good just because they do have May wall Sin turrets, so I'm not going to be mad that they took the point first. We don't care about small things, right? We don't care about the fact that they took point first. We care about winning the long game. So if they get 5, 10, 15, 25%, it's fine as long as we don't feed too quickly and as long as we don't stretch out the fights for too long while they have point control. Nothing else really matters that much in the beginning phases. This early cap is nice, but it's not the thing that wins you the game. Okay, so we rotate around. We take the push from the enemy side. Our Reinhardt gets walled. One of the pillars breaks, but the Reinhardt doesn't know which pillar it is, which pillar to go through. So greedy in this instance, I think it would be good for you to maybe drop just to get a slightly better sight line, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts about this. Because I think that, yeah, this is probably a fine enough, because then they can't push you out. You don't have to use coach to get back up. Yeah. So we lose our tank and we retreat. That's good. Flow, a little bit sloppy retreating. Try to clean those up in this next scrim. Make sure that you're getting to kind of like a cover area and pacing yourself around. Like you should be looking, and once your Reinhardt dies, if you're not sure where to go, Glow, you should be looking at Genetic or whoever like the confident DPS is next. Because they're the next person that's going to be potentially in front of you. So you should be looking at their positioning. I think he has a 0.5 speed. No, I don't have a 0.5 speed. Yeah, it's at one speed. But you should be looking at like, you know, Genetic or Greedy or even maybe like John or Luna or anybody who, Emmanuel, whoever is a step in front of you. That's where you should be pacing your positioning on. And if nobody's in front of you, then you better keep backing up. Well, wait, I'm not playing at a 0.5 speed, what?
Do something!
I think the Bob might have been a little bit unnecessary, but the fight was still pretty active. Might just be the zoom quality making it looks on, maybe. Maybe. Okay, this is another one of those instances where we want to be taking that corner, this choke corner, as quickly as possible. Just because it's free space that the enemies want to have. I'll look back at that because I don't think I had the right angle on that.
Hey, quick question. Should the DPSs be playing high ground instead of low ground?
On this map,
I don't know if
should
that's
at
a
least,
comfort thing or...
we should probably have one DPS on the high ground at least on this map for the most part, just to create that alternate angle and to be able to kind of like check it a little bit. I really like doing 4-2 splits personally. I really like playing with a Sigma who is on some sort of high ground or something like that with a DPS or something who can put pressure. But that'll be something that we potentially experiment with later. But yeah, I think that probably having a DPS on the high ground would be good. I think Genetic just taking that little climb up there would be good. But Genetic, you got any thoughts on why you're specifically on the low ground or why you might be specifically on the low ground?
Well, I don't think that we were gonna give up that much space, but I don't remember why I was over here. Maybe trying to get a different angle. Yeah, I probably should have been on the high ground, but I don't remember why I was there exactly.
Okay. So yeah, on this map, let's just try to keep one DPS on the high ground at all times. We'll keep that communication live. I think in this instance, it's better for it to be the Ash because Hanzo can go up and down at will, but Ash wants to use that cooldown to get up there. So if you could already be up there and have that cooldown ready for, like, let's say if you have to drop and then get back up mid-fight, you want to have that cooldown ready, whereas when you're on the ground, you have to use that cooldown just to get up there once. Which means you'll have less kind of like if somebody dives you. This side tangent, right? So this is how mobility to high ground kind of works in the game in general. So most people look at movement abilities and they're like, oh, I can use this to get to high ground whenever I want. And while that's true, it's probably in a largely inefficient way to use your movement ability. Generally, you want to be getting to the high ground in downtimes or in any way that you can without using your movement ability if it's like not egregiously annoying, like coming all the way over here to take the stairs would probably be egregiously annoying. But if Greedy uses his movement to be at the high ground during downtime, and you can have the cooldown ready for when the fight starts, if anybody tries to pressure him or dive onto him, he could always drop to the low ground and then use his movement ability to get back to the high ground. Basically what it allows him to do is it allows him to make 2 level changes, right? He can go down and then back up compared to what he would be able to do before, which is only go up. So it just, in a way, it like doubles his movement if you think about it like that. You could also do these things in reverse, start on the high ground or start on the low ground and then, you know, like boost to the high ground and then drop back to the low ground. But that's really particular to certain heroes on certain maps. For instance, Monkey on Nepal, when you're holding the first point, you're going to want to be playing on the right side, start on the high ground, drop your bubble, zap, drop to the low ground, and then jump back up. Or don't drop your bubble and then drop to the low ground, and then jump back up, drop your bubble, so you can kind of stay as long as possible. For anybody who got confused throughout that, start on the high ground when you can, regardless of if you have a movement ability. It's just better. So yeah, we gave too much space there. Tanks need to be recognizing chokes, pushing up to them, and taking advantage of that space. Then it gets caught out. Put a scrub. Okay. So this fight is messy. Okay, so this is what I'll say for this fight, right? I think what the biggest problem is that we are playing our composition a little bit inoptimally. So I think once we have the point, we don't actually need to be playing point anymore. We probably need to be playing high ground, honestly. I know I said a second ago that the tanks need to be at choke, but that's because they were already on point. Looking at it at face value, if you're already on point, there's no reason to go to choke. But in this instance, when you have 2 medium to long range characters and an Ana, you probably want to be starting from the high ground. The reason you want to be starting from the high ground is because you want your Ana to be able to chill in a safe space back here, or have the option of chilling in a safe space up here, so on and so forth. And if you hold choke with your Ana in a safe space over here, she can't really see you, right? So the best next option is to make sure that the enemies can't push top, and you can at least secure this location for the most part, and just play this kind of like bridge, high ground, bell area. Let's call this definitively bell, because we can call this over here bridge. We can also call this short bridge and long bridge if you guys want. Just as a kind of, and then this up here should be called nest. I'm gonna try to ascribe as many things or potential call outs for you guys as possible, just in case. If you have any alternate call outs, let me know. But yeah, if we play choke, then I think we compromise our Ana's positioning. No, actually, if we want to play choke, we can put our Ana here, and then as we lose choke, we can kind of like start to back up and come to the lantern pillar, and then play our Ana here and get our tanks onto point. So if we play choke, Ana should be here. if we play top, Ana should be top and then drop to back here. But there's no reason that John should be here because this just puts him in harm's way. And honestly, Greedy should be getting healing. Like, Greedy backed up to try to get healing, but there's no one out here to give him healing because everybody's so clumped up on point, you know? Any thoughts, comments, concerns about what I've said so far?
No, I'm Gucci.
All right.
I don't know if I went to nano him here. I think I went in because I had nano. I was like, damn. I think I did it right here.
Okay, let's go look at your POV.
Well, I think that saved his life.
I just think this side positioning isn't great because it's so clustered. It's so limiting to your line of sight as Ana. I think the right side of the map, that top high ground, just gives you more opening to be able to see different people, you know? Did I go forward?
I think he went forward.
That's crazy.
Get back now.
Alright, whatever. I'm gonna put it right here and we're gonna let it run.
Get back now. Lights out. Go. I can be here.
Wait, did he go forward again?
No, we haven't capped the point yet. We haven't capped it yet. I just went so far back because I couldn't find the right spot. Yeah, like you're really close to the tank line right here. For a sniper.
Get in there.
So the nano comes out. And then the wall comes out. Yeah, I think you're just working way too hard in this position. For the value you get.
I think I was playing like this because I was scared that the Mei was gonna wall up someone. So if I was far away, it would be a little bit hard. Well, it would work both ways actually, but I think it was because they had a Mei. I was playing a little bit closer.
Yeah. Alright. I think if we're able to kind of like get into that habit of breaking the Mei wall and getting our players back all on the same side, then I think you can play from that longer range without having to worry about the Mei wall. I think given the circumstance, your logic is perfectly fine.
Should we commence the pillaging of Mei characters?
No.
The Holy
Not a witch hunt.
Crusade?
It's not a witch hunt. Don't do it. Stop it. She's just a cute Asian girl. Leave her alone.
Du is wohl infidel.
I like how fast his push is. I'm going to say that. Because some of our pushes have been a little bit slow speed-wise, but we get in there, we amp speed, we get there. Mei wall comes out though. They're beating response. Decent shatter, decent shatter. Mei wall comes up again. Dragon in response to 2. So I feel like we were very split in that fight, so I really want to see what was going on, because I feel like we should have been able to clean that up a little bit faster, but there was something compromising us. There was something. There's always something.
Was it the Mei wall?
It might have been just the Mei wall kind of disrupting us too much. And if that's the case, hopefully we'll just get a little bit better about dealing with Mei walls. But I feel like, okay, so this Mei wall comes out, we stack to one side, our Rhine stacks to the other side, right? So our shields aren't stacked in the same place as our team is. Shatter comes through. Ryan is killed. Okay, so I think this is honestly a Zarya problem here, where Chloe isn't being aggressive enough for Alexis to be aggressive enough, for our DPS to be aggressive enough for us to confirm the kill. Because we have to have, when we're playing into May, we have to have the bubbles be appropriately timed to prevent the freezing so that we can continue to be aggressive. So I think if we have Chloe get a little bit more comfortable with pushing forward and encouraging people to like go forward and stuff like that, or if we just have a Zarya in general, let's say, who is able to push the tempo of this fight a little bit more, I think we clean this up before those dragons come out and before anybody else can get additional walls or value in, right? Because Alexis doesn't push past this room, even though there's like plenty of space and he was full health. And we're still kind of like sitting way back, which makes sense for maybe one or two of us, but we have a Lucio, like we can push tempo faster than they can. Well, I guess they have a Lucio, so maybe we can't push tempo faster than they can. I don't know, what do you guys think? Any thoughts?
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's comfortability, honestly, because like I kind of have to relearn Ryan a little bit since I haven't played him in a bit,
Word, same.
and so
Paul kind of
like
broke all my habits.
so yeah, I feel like if I was like comfortable with everybody and I knew what they were gonna do, they probably would have turned out better. Like using that or up like we said yesterday.
Yeah, that was a good combo. I guess the death was worth it. This complex fairy here. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, when you have a Lucio, you generally have them go back to get the people who died because Lucio can help them get back faster. Like Chloe has a really long walk up, so the rest of the team could be playing more defensively, and then Complex could be ferrying Chloe back so we can get everybody assembled and together as quick as possible. I don't think it's necessary because the enemy teams, actually no, it might be necessary because the enemy team's walk up to the fight is shorter technically because the fight is going to happen here as long as you hold here. And Chloe is going to have to walk extra distance and will be late to the fight. So
I think he does it because he
Yeah.
usually does it.
Yeah.
but it's, yeah,
Wait.
all right. Good. Are we playing passive in response though? Not really. Greedy's very, very far forward. But it's okay because you're able to get her there before it even matters. Okay. All right, cool. Nice. All right, so I'm not gonna really nitpick anymore because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we kind of went over already for some of the new people. I think we made some good kind of like decisions on our part for what we want to be doing going forward. So does anybody have anything else that they want to kind of talk about while they're here? We're gonna be, I think this is really the first time we're gonna be playing with Emmanuel, right? Because Emmanuel, you're STT, right?
Yeah, I played with everybody in the tryout, but I haven't played with everybody in the scrim. Yeah, I missed Friday because I didn't know we were gonna have it on Friday.
Yeah, so our schedule will probably be going forward. Fridays and Sundays will be scrim days, and then Saturdays and like Tuesdays will be VOD review days. I don't want Tuesdays to be VOD review days. I'll try to do them Monday, but I have classes Monday. But the reason I don't want Tuesday to be VOD review days is because if a patch comes out, all the VODs are worthless and we can't go through them. But if I can't, like if I'm stuck in classes or if I'm stuck doing work all day, there's not much I can do about that, and I'm sorry. So we'll try to get through as much as we can as soon as we can. But then that'll give you guys all week to kind of like play together in quick play, to watch any VOD reviews, to type anything out on that document that we put together yesterday. I don't know if everybody was able to go look at that. But yeah, it'll give you at least 5 days to try to get through all of that stuff. or at least 3 days if I do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, depending on how you want to look at it. But for today, I think I'm going to stop. So if you guys, does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about?
How's everybody's comfortability playing their position so far?
I'm okay. I can flex, honestly. If anything, if you needed
No,
something.
you're not a one trick. You're trapped
Because
now.
I'm a brainless like aimer. So I mean, if you need any of those.
If you're asking me, I feel really comfortable in my role, judging everybody and not having anybody talk back to. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, Overlord. Yes.
Since I'm new, I'm going with the flow. Flow's chilling.
Nah, I'm good. I'm good with anything y'all want to do. All I ask is that communication be the number one key.
Question: are we going to review the few remaining Scrim games, or are we pushing that back for later in the week? So it gets a little bit tricky because we did quite a few games. So we reviewed 3-ish maps, and it took 6 hours to get through. I don't think I have another 6 hours today before the next Scrim to go through all of that, because I'm gonna try to eat and be a human for a little bit, and then I'm gonna do some one-on-one stuff. So the rest of those games, like, we won't get to review everything all the time, right? But those games are still good practice to play. If we have time, we will look back at them, if anything. But a patch will probably come out in a week and a half or something like that. That will make them null and void. Let me note Nepal, so I know what we've already been through. All right. So yeah, we only went through about half of the maps that we played. John, I know that's you. Stop. You Satan creature. All right. So yeah, if everybody's good, I'm going to wait. I mean, I'm trying my best, and honestly, I think we've been playing half brained, so I'll do more today. Yeah, it's one step at a time, man. One step at a time. But we will conclude now if everybody's good, and you guys are all free to go except for Jenny. I think it's Frosty, right? If I got that correct. Yeah, so Jenny's trapped. The rest of you get out. Unless you have something you want to bring up.
Good luck.
Damn, they abandoned you.
May the Overwatch Lord himself, Daddy Kaplan, bless you.
Jeez.
Oh, okay. Alright, I'll see you guys later.
Adios.
See you.
Deuces.
Hello. Can you unmute your mic, or are you just not set up right now? Let me grab something to drink first. Yep, take your time.